today is Rupert Sheldrake, an innovative and controversial biologist, author of over 75 technical papers and books. Very interesting, I must say. Most recently, the sense of being stared at. He studied at Cambridge and is director of the Parrot-Warwick project there, funded by Trinity College. And he's going to speak about some research he's doing on that project about extraordinary or unexplained abilities of humans and animals. So there's going to be a 45-minute talk, followed by 15 minutes for questions and answers. Let's welcome Rupert Sheldrake.
Oh dear, the slides have gone on to... Sorry, just a moment. Okay. Thank you. I'm talking about the extended mind, the mind beyond the brain. And I'm going to start with a few reflections on the nature of consciousness. We don't know how consciousness works or what it does. This is one of the things which in science is sometimes called the hard problem, because there's no known obvious reason why we should be conscious at all, or exactly how the mind works. And consciousness studies is one of the most exciting frontier areas of science today. What I'm going to suggest is that our minds are field-like, that they're not confined to the inside of the head. They spread out into the environment around us. And because our minds are extended beyond our brains, they can have effects at a distance, which are surprising from the conventional point of view, and help to make sense of a range of controversial phenomena like telepathy. So the first point is that the question of where is the mind located. I'm suggesting that minds are field-like and spread out beyond brains in a similar way to the way that magnetic fields spread out beyond magnets, cell phone fields spread out beyond cell phones, and the Earth's gravitational field stretches out far beyond the Earth. These fields are within and around the material systems they organize. And I think the same is true of our brains. The place where this becomes easiest to understand is in terms of vision, and the question of how vision works. Most people think they know how vision works, and science has told us a great deal about it. And what we know is that when you see me standing here now, for example, light is reflected from me, goes through the electromagnetic field, inverted images appear on your retinas, changes happen in the cone cells, and then impulses travel up the optic nerves and various bits of your brain become active. That's what happens during the physical side of perception. There are two problems here. First of all, there's no explanation in this as to why you should be conscious at all. That's simply not explained by describing what happens in the nervous system. And the second problem is that, according to the standard view, all this is supposed to be happening inside your brain. If the mind is nothing but the brain, which is the usual assumption within the academic and medical worlds, mental activity is nothing but brain activity, everything you're seeing is inside your head. Somehow, miraculously, in an unexplained way, changes in your nervous cells lead to a kind of virtual reality display inside your head, by which you see what's going on in the world. So right now, for example, somewhere inside your head, there's a little virtual Rupert somewhere in your brain, and you think it's out here, as I'm standing here talking. If you look at the sky you're seeing is an image of the sky inside your head, so your skull must be beyond the sky. A recent paper in a leading consciousness journal was called, "Is Your Skull Beyond the Sky?" Because if the sky you see is inside your head, the skull must be beyond the sky. The answer of the author was yes. My answer would be no. In fact, I suggest the very common sense view, a view that's so simple it's hard to grasp, that when you're seeing something, the image you're seeing is where it seems to be. Your image of me is located not inside your head, but right here. It's in your mind, produced by your mind, but it's not in your brain. It's projected out. And I'm suggesting our whole visual experience of the world is projected out to where it seems to be. Our minds are projecting out all that we see. So vision's a two-way process, light coming in and the outward projection of images. This, I suggest, happens through what I call a perceptual field, which is a kind of morphic field, another category of field that is part of a theory I've developed, which I'm trying to explain today. But it's a field phenomenon, and in a sense, your mind reaches out to touch what you're looking at. The image of what you're seeing is superimposed on what's really there.
It's taken to these very strange images that are behind your head right now. These are pictures of equations. I've been, for the last 15 years, trying to answer the kinds of questions that my colleagues here have been raising. And what I've come to understand is that there are these incredible pictures that contain all the information of a set of equations that are related to string theory. And it's even more bizarre than that, because when you then try to understand these pictures, you find out that buried in them are computer codes, just like the type that you find in a browser when you go surf the web. And so I'm left with the puzzle of trying to figure out whether I live in the Matrix or not.
Wait, you're blowing my mind at this moment. So you're saying, are you saying your attempt to understand the fundamental operations of nature leads you to a set of equations that are indistinguishable from the equations that drive search engines and browsers on our computers?
That is correct. So
Wait, wait. I have to just be silent for a minute here. So you're saying as you dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos?
into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos, yes.
Computer code.
Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
It's not just sort of resembles computer code. You're saying it is computer code.
It's not even just is computer code, it's a special kind of computer code that was invented by a scientist named Claude Shannon in the 1940s. That's what we find very, very deeply inside the equations that occur in string theory and in general in systems that we say are supersymmetric.
Okay.
Time to go home, I think. I'm not, where are we going to go here? So are you saying we're all just, there's some entity that programs?
They dictate that there are certain things that are actually strings of ones and zeros. That's just digital data, but it's not just random ones and zeros. As I mentioned earlier, let me talk about something that you probably do every day, but I don't know if you're a computer scientist or not. Most of us sit at our...
Sounds that kind of fluency.
Okay, well, most of us sit at our computer screens and we type on the keyboards, and we then send these, if we're using a browser, we're sending strings of ones and zeros elsewhere. But on the other hand, in the transmission process, there's always some fluctuation. So zero that you type here because of static in line might be read as a one at the other end and vice versa. And so in fact, when you sit and type on the keyboard, your computer's doing something behind your back. Namely, it throws in a bunch of extra ones and zeros, and these things are called error correcting codes, so that the computer at the other end can look at the whole collection of what you typed plus what was sent and figure out if there were bits that were being flipped back and forth. And that's how you get accurate transmission of digital data. Among the codes that are used for this purpose are a special class of codes that are called block linear self-dual error correcting codes. They were first, in fact, the Shannon extended checksum code is an example of one of these things. These are the codes that we find buried in the equations. Not just any code, but these self-dual error correcting block codes. It's quite remarkable for anyone that I've talked to. We have no idea what these things are.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now, there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. Physicists were completely baffled by this. So, they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. It was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never-world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
So basically, in order to put this into perspective, we live in a field of frequency, like a TV signal to a TV set, the TV set being us. The act of observation, as we know, turns this frequency into solid matter at the quantum level. Since our universe is conscious, along with our planet, and without getting too technical, all living things within it, collapses the wave function. This is what allows us to experience this life in our solid 3-dimensional and 5-sense reality. Just to emphasise the point on this, with the argument of someone saying a building is not conscious or a piece of metal is not conscious, obviously no, they're not. But the atoms that hold them together as a substance is vibrating at a certain frequency, and these items, amongst others, are existing in a conscious world. There are also, as we know, 9 other levels of dimensions that exist alongside ours, hence the previously unaccountable dark matter or empty space. This area is what we're going to be looking into in regards to the alien abduction phenomena, as discussed in detail by the late John Mack. John Mack was the department head of psychiatry at Harvard. He joined Harvard as a professor in 1972 and became department head in 1977. In the 1980s, he had interviewed many international political figures as part of his research into the root causes of the Cold War, which included the former President Jimmy Carter. He also, along with Carl Sagan, with the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, promoted the elimination of nuclear weapons. In the early 1990s, he decided to look into the alien abduction phenomenon, along with a team of other individuals within their specialist fields, with the initial idea that these were people who were suffering from a mental illness. He conducted over 10 years of study of 200 men and women who had reported alien encounter experiences. He has said on record and given a series of very deep lectures that the alien encounter and the abduction phenomenon is completely real. He has also said that we need to look into the existence of our universe in a completely different way. Slightly annoying is the fact that some of the footage I wanted to use in this video from one of John Mack's lectures appears to have been removed from YouTube. Instead, I will go over a few accounts from some abductees, or as he says, experiences, from his book Passport to the Cosmos. Then some footage of the interviews he conducted with children from the Ariel School in Zimbabwe, with whom 62 of them witnessed craft that landed on the outskirts of their playgrounds, along with what were believed to be grey aliens, often reported as the Greys. The work he did was not just about gathering and looking into people's experiences, but as a clinical psychologist, helping them deal with and cope with the trauma and the fact that they came forward knowing that they would be disbelieved and maybe mocked by their own family and friends. One of the abductees or experiencers, known as Karen, briefly describing what had happened. It's racking just to go through the window because they have to alter your vibration in order to get a solid object to pass through another solid object, literally. And that happens. You go through the window or wall, they prefer the window. So on a molecular level, it's like everything goes. You almost feel separated. And then you go into the bottom of this thing that's alive somehow. And then you're on a table. And probably the moment that you're on the table is where they stopped vibrating you to get you through all the different levels of time and space and everything else. So you physically actually manifest in this other dimension. Another form of delivery, which John talks about in his book, Passport to the Cosmos. Jim Sparks, like Julie, speaks of interdimensional travel and the ability to go from point A to point B in no time at all, or to occupy the same space in a different dimension. I know this to be true, Jim says, because I have been taken from my home via this field to this ship. Also, by the same method, I have been transported to different points on the Earth's surface and across one end of the galaxy to the other. They call themselves Star People, Jim says. I know they come from other dimensions. This field renders distance inconsequential.
It was scary myself.
It was scary because you saw something yourself?
Yes. I saw a little object hovering. It was quite big, actually, and then there was little ones all around it. We saw something silver, and then we quickly ran to the logs, and we saw a silver thing, and we saw a man standing next to it.
What did it feel like when he was looking at you?
Felt scared.
It felt scared? What was scary about it?
Well, felt scared because I've never seen such a person like that before.
Did you see the eyes? What did they look like?
They were going like that.
Where was the pointy part? Was the pointy part in here, or was the pointy part out there? Up there. And what was the feeling when you looked at the eyes?
It was scary.
And what scary? Why? What made it scary?
The eyes looked evil.
Evil. And what was evil about them? Say what you mean by evil.
It looked evil because it was just staring at me.
With what? Staring at you as if what? As if to do what?
As if it wanted to come and take us.
As if it wanted to come and take you. That was the feeling you got? That it wanted you to go with it? Did you feel like you wanted to go with it? No. Did you feel, what was the effect on you when you felt it wanted to have you go with it?
I just walked away and I started crying.
Both of them were running. One was running in the trees, and the other one was running across the ship, because there were also trees here.
The eyes were like more pointed as they came in toward the center of the head, is that?
No, more circular, and this was all black in here.
All black. Now you made pupils. Did they actually have pupils or black?
White.
What?
The pupils were white like that.
You saw white in the center?
Yes, like that.
Was he near the silver object, or was he far
He
from
was
it?
on top.
On top of the silver object. Okay. And did you look at him?
Yes.
Did he look at you?
Yes, then he gave me the creeps, then I stopped
Gave
looking
you
at
the creeps. Actually, in your drawing, you showed him standing up, didn't you?
Yes, I had to draw him standing up because I couldn't draw him sitting. Because because we don't look after the planet the area properly.
And is this an idea that you have had before, that we don't look after the planet properly in the air, or did this idea come to you when you had this experience?
When I had this experience.
And how did that idea come to you from this experience? This is a little hard, but try to be with me here, okay? How did this idea come to you when you had this experience?
I just felt all horrible inside.
You felt horrible. At what point did you feel that? When you saw the craft, or when you got home at night? Or
When I got home.
You had that horrible feeling when you got home?
Yes.
And say more about that horrible feeling, Lisa. What was it like?
It was like the world, all the trees will just go down and there will be no air and people will be dying.
And those thoughts came to you. Had you had those thoughts before this experience?
No.
No. And how did those thoughts come to you? Did they come to you from the craft, or from
the man?
The man. And did the man say those things to you? How did he get that across to you?
Well, he never said anything. It's just that the face is the eyes.
What was the sense you got from those eyes?
He was interested.
Two things to take away from this is that the universe and other dimensions that surround us are full of life, and that we are definitely not alone. We also have a lot to learn from other forms of travel and the role that we play in our own existence. The other thing is a dogmatic community that dismisses everything and desperately tries to find ways to debunk everything, are losing their grip at a steady pace. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.